Part 4, Chapter 1, Application of Medicines. Judicious Employment of Medicines, Aphorism 146 to 1291. The third point necessary for cure. Efficacy in homeopathy implies and involves native ability, acquired technical proficiency, and logical consistency in the application of its principle by stored clause. Once the knowledge of the disease, aphorism 71 to 104, has been acquired, and the knowledge of the drugs, aphorism 105 to 145, have been ascertained, the third point in the process of cure is to apply this drug knowledge to the disease knowledge. This chapter introduces us with the guidelines of the Hahnemann to achieve cure. Topic is the specific remedy, aphorism 147. The specific remedy in the homeopathy is the one which has greater similarity to the totality of the symptoms of the patient. Specific remedy based on the symptoms exhibited by the patient at present condition. Medicine which is similar to the striking, uncommon, peculiar and rare symptoms of the patient will be the specific remedy. The common symptoms like loss of appetite, headache, debility, restlessness, discomfort, vomiting, etc. are the not important for the homeopathic description. Those symptoms which characterize the personality and constitution of the patient are most important. I am repeating this word. These symptoms which characterize the personality and constitution of the patient are the most important. Such characteristic uncommon symptoms must be considered as the internal essence of the suffering vital force. Example, the totality of the symptoms. Such medicines which cover the essential totality is the specific remedy to the patient. Homeopathy treats the patient and not the nosological names. Hence, there are specific individual remedies to the patient and non-specific remedies to the diagnosed disease. New topic is the homeopathic specific remedy versus allopathic specific remedy. Allopathy has a fixed prescription for various remedies. Example, they have fixed medicine for typhoid. All typhoid medicines are treated with the same type of medicines by allopathic physicians. All malaria cases will be treated with the same medicines by them. Diagnosis the disease name is sufficient for them. They do not have individual prescriptions. Such concepts is not allowed in homeopathy. Each patient is investigated separately and prescription is made based on the patient's individualistic symptoms and not for the nosological name. So the specific remedy in the homeopathy is selected to the individual who is sick, irrespective of the disease he is having. Thus we can conclude by Hahnemann's words, similarity to the totality of the symptoms of a given natural disease. This medicine will and must be the most suitable, the most certain homeopathic remedy for the disease. In it is found the specific of this case of the disease. Kant's views on the specific remedy, lecture number 30, characteristics. It is uncommon in this advanced day of the science to read specific remedies. This concept is altogether opposed in homeopathy. We do not give specific remedies for headaches, diarrhea, etc. There are no specifics in homeopathy, except at the bedside of the patient when the remedy has been sought out with the great endeavor and care. Only characteristic symptoms in each individual totality of the patient will lead to specific remedy in homeopathy. Homeopathic specific remedy is the one which has demonstrated its curative relation to the patient. After having been prescribed in the accordance with his symptoms, the recovery takes place in the proper direction from above to downward, from within to outward, and in the reverse order of the appearance of the symptoms. As a matter of fact, the homeopathic physician prescribes for the patient on that which characterizes the sickness, even though this is what is called self-limiting disease. New topic is the modus operandi of the homeopathic cure. Aphorism number 148. And here is written that please refer the explanation given to the aphorism 29 and the 28 and 29 of the theoretical part. So we are opening this modus operandi of the homeopathic cure. How a homeopathic cure takes place. Aphorism 28, 29 and 148. So we are reading. Homeopathic cure is based on the nature's law of cure. The nature's law of the cure is purely based on the experiences and the experimentation of our ancestors. According to their experience, it is the only curative law in the universe. Hence, they have not given much importance to the modus operandi of its cure. In aphorism 28, Hahnemann says how a homeopathic cure takes place is not of the much importance to a physician. Scientific explanations to the material phenomenon can be given effectively, but it is difficult to give explanations to dynamic phenomenon like nature's law. Hahnemann says it matters little what may be the scientific explanation of how it takes place, and I do not attach much importance to the attempts made to explain it, but following view seems to commend itself as the most probable one, as it is founded on the premise derived from the experience. Yet Hahnemann gives satisfactory explanation to the modus operandi of the homeopathic cure. Example, the mode of the action of the homeopathic cure in the following manner. Step 1. Based on the similia principle, when the homeopathic medicine is administered, it produces medicinal disease, means artificial disease. The medicinal disease directly affects the vital force through the medium of nerves. Medicinal disease must always be stronger and similar to the miasmatic disease, means natural disease, because the control of the dose and the potency of the medicine is in the physician's hand. He administers the medicine which is stronger than the miasmatic disease. Medicine acts unconditionally at all times, under all circumstances, and on every person. Step 2. Aphorism 26 states that a weaker dynamic affection is permanently extinguished in the living organism by a stronger one, if the latter, whilst differing in kind, is very similar to the former in its manifestations. Based on the principle, the stronger medicinal disease removes the weaker miasmatic disease. Now the place of the miasmatic disease is occupied by the medicinal disease. Vital force now suffers only by the medicinal disease. I am explaining the chart of the modus operandi of the homeopathic cure, aphorism 28, 29 and 148. First, when the healthy person vital force is free and the miasm affect and the diseased person become. Vital force suffers with the miasmatic disease. When we used homeopathic medicine, the disease on diseased person, vital force suffer with the both miasmatic and medicinal disease. This is the primary action. Diseased person, the vital force suffers only with the medicinal disease, and the weaker miasmatic disease is thrown out, and the medicinal disease becomes weak. Diseased person becomes healthy person, vital force is free due to second reaction, and the weaker medicinal disease is thrown out. Step 3. Medicines have specified period of the action and they have to be administered always in the minutest dose possible. Because of this reason, the medicinal diseases gradually become weaker and milder. At one point of the time, the power of the vital force becomes stronger than the medicinal disease that is left out. Exactly at this moment, the vital force reacts actively against the medicinal disease and removes it easily. Now the vital force is free from both the miasmatic disease and the medicinal disease. Vital force becomes healthy, again retaining the normal sensations and functions of the body. Explanation is written here. The action of a remedy on the diseased vital force is the primary action. This helps to remove the miasmatic disease from the vital force. Later, the reaction of the vital force on the medicinal disease is always opposite. This can be termed as the secondary curative action. These two actions are the necessary to bring the highest ideal of cure. The homeopathic cure always takes place at the dynamic level. Hence, the patient feels a sense of the well-being after administration of the homeopathic remedy. It will always take some time to notice the restoration of the structural pathological change in the body. Hahnemann has not given much importance to the theoretic explanation of the modus operandi of the homeopathic cure. Practically, it is impossible to notice the dynamic action. The above explanation has to be considered as the most probable explanation to understand the modus operandi of cure. Now we move to our topic is the modus operandi, aphorism 28 and 29. And our next topic is the mongrel sect, aphorism 148. Here is written that the refer footnote to 67 also. The mongrel sect footnote of the 67 is condition where the palliative mode permissible. First we read first is conditions where the palliative mode is permissible. Footnote to aphorism 67. In the footnote to the aphorism 67, Hahnemann explains the conditions where a homeopath can make use of antipathic principles. Homeopathy, as a rule, is method intended to cure the dynamic miasmatic conditions. The homeopathic secondary curative responses. In the process, the vital force takes a vital and active role in the production of the second curative action. But there are certain conditions where the stimulation of the vital force is either impossible or the vital force has lost the reactive capacity itself. Example, case like asphyxia, problems due to the lightning, suffocation, freezing or drowning, etc. In such conditions, the homeopathic medicines prove ineffective as the secondary curative response cannot be induced. Hahnemann says, only in the most urgent cases where danger to life and imminent death allow no time for the action of a homeopathic remedy, not hours, sometimes not even quarter hours and scarcely minutes, it is admissible to apply palliative means. Palliative procedures like gentle electrical shocks, with clusters of strong coffee with stimulating odor, gradual application of heat, etc. can be employed. Various antidotes in case of the poisoning like alkalis for mineral acids, hepatic sulfur for metallic poisons, coffee and camphor for the poisoning by opium, etc. also can be kept in this category. This is admissible here because when the sufficient stimulation is effected, the vital force regains its strength again. But there is a new sect of homeopathy. This mongrel sect is equal crossbreed dog. which neither practice homeopathy according to its fundamental principles nor treat the patient by other laws. This group of the homeopaths does not try hard to find the similitude to the patient's suffering to cure them. Due to this, when ill-selected remedy fails to cure the patient, they directly put the blame on the homeopathy as unsuitable to such and such case. Then they directly administer the allopathic medicines. Selecting a homeopathic remedy is a very laborious process. It demands sincerity and hard work on the physician's part. The selected remedy must cover the entire totality of the patient's symptoms in a similar manner. But this new sect of the homeopaths, without giving much importance to the symptoms similarity, prescribe the medications. Naturally, when the medicines fail to cure the patient, they blame homeopathy and resort to allopathic remedies. This type of practice is neither profitable to the patient nor to the physician. Now we are going to our topic. Here Mongrel sect 148 aphorism. The meaning of the word mongrel sect is the crossbreed dog. Hahnemann used this word to criticize those homeopaths who use name of the homeopathy and also prescribe the allopathic or the antipathic medicines. This group of homeopaths do not try hard to find the simillimum remedy to the patient's suffering to cure them. Due to this, when ill-selected remedy fails to cure the patient, they directly put the blame on the homeopathy as unsuitable to such case. Then they directly administer the allopathic medicines. Selecting a homeopathic remedy is a very laborious process. It demands sincerity and hard work on the physician's part. The selected remedy must cover entire totality of the patient's symptoms in a similar manner. But this new sect of homeopathy, without giving much importance to the symptom similarity, prescribe the medications. Naturally, when the medicines fail to cure the patient, they blame homeopathy and resort to allopathic medicines. I am therefore sorry that I gave the advice, savoring of allopathy, to apply the back in the psoriatic disease, a resinous plaster to cause itching, and to employ the finest electrical sparks in the paralytic affections. For as both these appliances have seldom proved of services, and have furnished the mongrel homeopaths with an excuse for their allopathic transgressions, I am grieved I should ever have proposed them, and I hereby solemnly retract them. For this person also, that since then our homeopathic system has advanced so near to perfection, they are now no longer required, says Hahnemann in his preface to the 5th edition of Organon. During the later years of the Hahnemann's life, a converted homeopath called Moritz Müller actively involved himself in the development of homeopathy. He was basically an allopath. He suggested the union of both systems for the treatment. According to him, homeopaths can also employ allopathic methods when homeopathic system is not applicable in few cases. But during Hahnemann's time, the allopathic system was applying cruel methods like venesections, leeches applications, etc. Hahnemann openly criticized such venesections, leeches application practices. He condemned this practice and called the homeopaths who practice both allopathy and homeopathy as the mongrel sect. Aphorism 149. The chronic diseases require a longer time for their cure. If they are spoiled by the cruel methods of the allopathic system, like a long continued usage of the powerful medicines and the unsuitable mineral baths, etc., etc. They cannot be treated in a short period. They require more time to get cured by the homeopathic medicines because in such cases the patient's strength and the vital force have been drained to a large extent. Our next topic is the indispositions. Aphorism 150. Refer to the footnote of 7 in the commentary of Organon theoretical part. And we are referring 1 minute. Indispositions footnote to aphorism 7. Indisposition is not a true disease. It is a slight deviation in the state of the health, with one or the more trivial symptoms which can be controlled by a slight change in the diet and regimen. Indisposition does not require any remedy for the psychological benefit of the patient. The physician can intelligently use the placebo to please the patient. Example, in a suspected case of a syncope and hysterical sufferings, the physician has to first improve the strong smelling flowers from the broom. In a case of the inflammation of the eye, where a foreign body is causing the mechanical irritation, the physician will first remove this foreign body that is present in the cornea. Third is in case of a wounded limb that is threatened to go into mortification, the loosening of the overtight bandage will do more good than a medicine. In case of a bleeding because of a torn artery, ligature is more essential than a medicine. Fifth point is the extraction of the foreign substances that are obstructing the orifice of the body like nose, gullet, ears, urethra, rectum and vagina is mandatory in case of the accidental swallowing by the person. When such obstruction is removed with the help of the surgical instruments, improvement will follow even without medicinal aid. Surgical removal of any calculus that is obstructing any vessel in the body and operating the imperforated anus, rectal atresia in the newborn baby are few examples for the indispositions. Seventh point is a slight exhausted and tired feeling felt by a person because of the lack of overnight sleep does not require any medicine but a good sound sleep. Eighth point is the overeating in a person leads to indigestion and stomach pain. This can be easily controlled by fasting and a light diet for a short period. In both above instances, the vital force itself can take care of the above problems of indisposition. The physician has to create a cooperative environment for the developmental reaction. Father of medicine, Hippocrates, called them as a nature's self-help by the name vis medicatrix nature. Physician should always possess the knowledge of the differentiating indisposition from the acute diseases. The old school physicians, in the name of the symptomatic treatment, prescribe too many medicines to the patients at a time. In the name of the one-sided procedure, they prescribe one medicine to one symptom. In this manner, they treat each symptom as a separated from the other. They are ignoring the totality. Man cannot be separated into individual parts. He is a single unit. Each and every constitution requires only one single remedy at a time. Difference between indisposition and the disease. Footnote to aphorism 7 and 1. 150. 151. Okay, sorry. In indispositions, the patient complains of the one trivial symptoms that has been observed for a short period. But in the dynamic disease of the severe type, acute disease, on the inquiry, the patient complains of the many more symptoms. Besides the chief of the presenting complaints, by further investigation, each symptom can be developed into a grand symptoms and can furnish the entire picture of the disease. Our next topic is the value of the symptoms. Aphorism 152 to 156. Search for the homeopathic specific remedy. Finding a homeopathic remedy in an acute disease is easy in comparison to the chronic disease because first is the symptoms are severe and more striking. Second, the patient narrates them spontaneously and without any further questioning. When such acute totality is matched with the remedial totality of the materia medica, desired remedy is found. Aphorism 152. In search of the homeopathic specific remedy, the more striking, singular, uncommon, and peculiar characteristic signs and symptoms must be given much importance. The selected final remedy must cover these above stated symptoms in order to affect the cure. The general symptoms means common symptoms of cant like loss of appetite, headache, debility, restless sleep, discomfort, etc. demand little attention. Aphorism 153. Based on these guidelines, each pioneer has developed different evaluation technique for the better use of the symptoms. That medicines which conveys striking, singular, uncommon, and peculiar means characteristic signs and symptoms is considered as the most similar remedy and administered to the patient. Hahnemann confidentially says that a single dose of such remedy, when administered in disease of the short duration, can remove the suffering of the patient without any considerable disturbance. Aphorism 154. By such medicine, the patient grows better hour by hour because the medicine is administered in excessively minute dynamized dose. The vital force recognizes only those symptoms of the remedy that are similar to the symptoms of the disease. Those symptoms of the drug which are not corresponding to the picture of the disease remain quiescent because of the minuteness of the administered dose. Aphorism 155 and 156. So the disease disappears without any considerable disturbance. Our next topic is the clinical understanding of different types of aggravation. In our day-to-day practice, we come across different types of aggravation. After administering the remedy, the patient may complain that his symptoms are actually growing in intensity. Proper understanding and clinical interpretation of the condition will help in the managing the case. Some aggravation have good prognostic value and some have bad prognosis. Hence, knowledge of the different types of the aggravation is mandatory for the judicious employment of the medicines. Types of aggravation. Homeopathic aggravation. Second is the medicinal aggravation. Third is the disease aggravation. And fourth one is the killer aggravation. Homeopathic aggravation. The homeopathic remedy is always administered in a similar yet stronger manner than the natural disease. The medicine removes the weaker miasmatic disease as a result of its primary action. Now the place of the miasmatic disease has been occupied by the stronger medicinal disease. Because of the strongness of the dose, the patient may experience sense of increase of his original symptoms. This increases the symptoms obviously have the resemblance to the original miasmatic disease. Hence, the patient may think that his disease itself is increasing, but the intelligent physician can observe that it is the homeopathic aggravation and not the disease aggravation. The increased symptoms are because of the strongness of the dose. Aphorism 157. Definition: homeopathic aggravation is a slight intensification of the existing symptoms of the patient with the inner well-being of the patient. This happens when the remedy has been administered in a slightly stronger dose. The homeopathic aggravation is because of the primary action of the drug on the vital force. The similar yet stronger medicine unconditionally attacks the disease parts. The disease parts are already susceptible to the similar disease symptoms, so they easily adopt the medicinal disease also. The medicinal disease has so many other symptoms than the original disease, but because of the minuteness of the dose, they will not come on to play and remain quiescent. The nature's law says the stronger medicinal disease can easily remove the weaker miasmatic disease. Hence, now the vital force is only suffering from the stronger medicinal disease. Because the medicinal disease is stronger, the patient feels that his disease has increased after the intake of the medicine. In fact, this is the homeopathic aggravation and not the disease aggravation. Such increase in the intensity of the existing symptoms of the patient is called the homeopathic aggravation. Aphorism 157. Homeopathic aggravation in acute diseases. Aphorism 158, 159 and 160. The homeopathic aggravation in the acute diseases is seen in the first few hours of the administration of the remedy. It has a good prognostic value. The smaller the dose of the medicine, the slight and shorter will be the aggravation. As a result, the patient recovers very soon. Homeopathic aggravation in the chronic disease. Aphorism 161. The aggravation in the case of the chronic disease cannot be seen immediately after the administration of the remedy, but after the remedy is repeated for a long time of a period in proper, small, gradually increasing higher doses with renewed dynamization, it can be observed. It usually occurs at the end of the treatment when the cure is almost finished. Prognosis and the interpretation of the physician. First, the slight homeopathic aggravation is a good indication. It shows that the remedy administered is not only similar but also stronger. The patient is on the road to recovery. The intensity and the duration of the aggravation depends upon the dose of the medicine and administered. But the dose of the homeopathic medicine can never be made so small as to avoid even the slightest homeopathic aggravation and bring about the cure. So the selection of the dose is purely done by the experience of the physician. After the aggravation, amelioration follows uninterruptedly. Third point is the medicinal disease loses its power over a period of time because of its minuteness of the dose and the dynamization. The medicinal disease now becomes weaker and weaker as a result of the secondary action of the vital force. Now the weaker medicinal disease is also removed. According to the Honeyman, the homeopathic aggravation indicates first is the cure is approaching. Second, the vital force is now free of the natural disease and is only suffering with the medicinal disease. Fifth point is the homeopathic aggravation should not be interrupted. It should be allowed to run its own course. Further repetition of any medicine, including the selected remedy, has to be stopped. For the satisfaction of the patient, placebo can be given. In the footnote to Aphorism 160, Honeyman explains about the experiences of the non-homeopathic physician with the homeopathic aggravation. This happened when they employed the medicines in a homeopathic manner without their notice. Dr. Leroy experienced homeopathic aggravation when he administered viola tricolor in a case of the facial eruption, Dr. Lyson experienced this in a case of the skin eruption when he administered bark of elm. Both these physicians have reported the occurrence of the aggravation before cure, but they could not find the fact that this aggravation has taken place because these drugs were truly homeopathic to those conditions. One chart is here. The aggravations has a 4 part: the homeopathic aggravation, good prognosis; medicinal aggravation, bad prognosis; third is the disease aggravation, bad prognosis; and the killer aggravation, the fatal prognosis. Now the second over is the medicinal aggravation. Definition: medicinal aggravation can be defined as the appearance of the new medicinal symptoms in a patient after administration of the wrongly chosen medicine. Accessory symptoms of the medicine: when the homeopathic medicine has been chosen wrongly or the repeated unnecessarily, such condition may arise. The patient complains for a certain period of time about the appearance of the new symptoms. Further, he complains that he had never experienced such symptoms in his lifetime. The new symptoms produced by the wrongly chosen medicine are called as the accessory symptoms of the medicine. Those new symptoms can be easily identified by the referring to the materia medica. Prognosis and interpretation of the physician. First, the medicinal aggravation has a bad prognosis. It shows that the administered remedy is not the simillimum one and the patient is proving the medicine. Second, if the symptoms are of the serious nature, the medicine has to be antidoted immediately. Third point is if the medicinal symptoms are of the mild to moderate intensity, further repetition of the medicine has to be stopped immediately. The physician has to wait till the new medicinal symptoms pass away and later the new symptom can be searched for the original disease symptoms. Fourth point, if the medicinal symptoms and the original disease symptoms are mixed up, a suitable medicine which covers both can be selected and administered. Third is the disease aggravation. Definition: disease aggravation can be defined as the appearance of the bad prognostic, advanced symptoms of the nosological disease condition. This indicates that the chosen remedy is wrong and is not showing any impact on the disease condition. The disease is advancing in its own course. Prognosis and interpretation of the physician. If the chosen medicine is not of a homeopathic character, does not suit to the homeopathic properly and not remitted to frequently, this does not have any impact on disease. In such case, the disease will progress in its own course in spite of the application of the medicine. Hence, the patient complains of the aggravation of his complaints. New symptoms with great intensity will also be found. Patient's condition on the examination seems to worsen physically, mentally, and intellectually. In such condition, correct interpretation can only save the patient. It has to be differentiated from the medicinal aggravation. This can be done easily by referring the materia medica. When new symptoms are not of the prescribing medicine, then referring to the knowledge of the surgery, gynecology, and medicine will help us to find out the complication and bad prognosis of the disease. Timely use of the diagnostic procedures like ECG, X-ray, and MRI, etc. will help us in the realizing that previously prescribed medicine is not working and the disease is advancing into its complicated stage. Clearly, it is neither the homeopathic aggravation nor the medicinal aggravation. In cases where the disease aggravation is identified, the case has to be retaken and proper remedy in proper dose and proper repetition has to be done. Fourth one is the killer aggravation. Definition: killer aggravation can be defined as the condition arising from the untimely prescription of the constitutional curative remedy in pathologically advanced case of the incurable cases. Prognosis and the interpretation of the physician. First point, killer aggravation has a almost fatal prognosis. Second, this kind of the aggravation results purely because of the physician's improper handling of the case. In pathologically advanced, difficult and incurable cases, the pioneers have advocated the palliative method because in such cases vital force has lost its reactive power. Hence, such cases cannot be cured by homeopathy. Dr. H. A. Roberts has an opinion. The aggravation of the disease state may come from an incurable state which is stirred to its foundation by the potentized remedy, and unless the remedy is counteracted, the disease will worsen and rapidly approach a fatal termination. Third point is that without having this idea, if any homeopathy selects a well chosen, defecting constitutional remedy to a patient whose condition is very much worse, the result will be disastrous. The defecting remedy does its work by the producing primary action, but the debilitated incapable vital force cannot produce the secondary curative action. Result will be dangerous in such condition if the prescribed potency is high and repeated too frequently. Owing to the similarity to the case, the patient cannot withstand the aggravation and can even kill the patient if the disease is affecting the vital organs. Fourth point, hence in such cases, the physician must understand that the vitality is almost lost in the patient. Here he must think of only the palliative remedies to remove the most annoying symptoms of the patient and should not aim at cure. Management of cases with partially suitable remedies. Aphorism 162 to 171. Generally, in regular practice, selection of perfect homeopathic remedy becomes very difficult. This may be because of the following reasons. First, the lack of the sufficient well-proven remedies in our materia medica. After the pioneers, the homeopathic medicines are not proven properly. According to the anatomic schema also, many medicines were included into the materia medica without proving their efficacy of producing pathogenetic power in every part of the body. Second, inability or modesty of the patient in explaining the symptoms of the disease. This results into the lack of the symptoms of the case. Modest patient does not explain even the general symptoms properly. In such cases, the physician has to manage the case with partially similar or imperfectly homeopathic remedies. Such cases can be handled in the following manner. First, the number of the well-proven medicines in our materia medica is very few. The pathogenetic power of the medicinal substance is not fully understood. Hence, it rarely happens that finding a perfect homeopathic remedy becomes difficult. As a result, a partially indicated remedy has to be employed to the patient. 162. Second, accessory symptoms of the medicine. When such imperfect homeopathic remedy is administered, we cannot expect an undisturbed perfect cure of this first grade. The prescribed remedy will produce some new symptoms in the patient which are not similar to the condition. Such new symptoms that are produced after the administering the imperfect homeopathic remedy are called as the accessory symptoms of the medicine. The severity of the such accessory symptoms can be controlled to moderate if the physician uses minute and dynamized medicine. Aphorism 163. Third point, even by administration of imperfect homeopathic remedy, the cure can be achieved without much disturbance. This is possible only if the selected remedy is covering the uncommon, peculiar, distinctive means characteristic symptoms of the disease condition. Aphorism 164. This is because of the fact that even this single symptom is complete with its location, sensation, modality and concomitant will constitute the individuality of the patient. Fourth point. In contrast, if symptoms covered by the imperfect homeopathic remedy are of the general nature like nausea, debility, headache, etc., then the physician cannot assure him of getting cure. This is because of the medicine is not covering the peculiar feature of the patient. Aphorism 165. Fifth point, such cases are reducing as the more well-proven remedies are being introduced into our materia medica. Aphorism 166. Sixth point is the management of the acute cases with imperfectly chosen homeopathic remedy in acute disease. When the imperfect homeopathic remedy is administered, sometimes few violent type of the accessory symptoms of the medicine may arise. In such cases, the physician should not wait for the disappearance of the symptoms on their own. Instead, he will take a fresh case of the present condition and collect the entire totality. Aphorism 167. The entire totality includes not only the remaining disease symptoms of the patient, but also the newly produced symptoms of the medicine. 7 point, remaining disease symptoms of the patient plus the accessory symptoms of the medicine is equal present totality of the patient. 8 point, the second remedy administered afresh sometimes can cure the case. If not, it will bring the case close to cure. Then the existing totality has to be collected once again and the suitable remedy has to be administered. This process of the investigating and administering the remedy has to be followed till the patient is cured. Aphorism 168. In some cases, ninth point, in some cases of the disease, it seems that the two remedies are seemingly similar to the patient's picture. One remedy seems to cover one part of the symptoms and the other remedy to the other. In such condition, it is not at all advisable to administer two remedies at a time in the same patient. The most perfectly suitable remedy among the two has to be given to the patient. 10th point, once the curative process of the first remedy is over, the previously selected second remedy cannot be administered. This is because the symptoms picture may have changed in the patient with the administration of the first remedy. The current totality may demand a new remedy this time. So it is always required to take the case again and get fresh totality. If the remaining symptoms still demand the previously selected second remedy, it can be prescribed with confidence. Aphorism 169 and 170. 11th point, management of the non-venereal disease, psoric, with imperfectly selected homeopathic remedy. Majority of the psoric cases cannot be cured by the administration of a single remedy alone. This is because of the nature of their indefinite and chronic nature. Such cases require several medicines in a succession. That is, one medicine has to be administered after the other one has completed its course. This repetition can be done based on the totality of the symptoms that are the remaining after the previous one has exhausted its action. Always, as a rule, the selection of the new remedy has to be made based on the existing totality only. Here chart is given. First box is the management of the cases with the partially suitable remedies. Aphorism 162 to 171. Next box is the administration of the partially suitable remedy. And next box is the accessory symptoms of the medicine. There is a two part. The medicine covers uncommon characteristic symptoms and cure takes place. And second is the medicine covers general symptoms. In acute disease and in acute diseases, if accessory symptoms are of the violent character. Next box is the new remedy based on the current totality has to be selected, and this has to be followed till the patient recovers. And in the psoric disease, several medicines to be administered in the succession. This has to be followed till the patient is cured. Thank you.